College was supposed to be a fresh start, a taste of freedom away from home. I had initially been apprehensive about sharing a dorm, but once I met Chris, I was reassured that everything was going to be okay. She seemed pretty chill and mainly kept to herself. I thought that this new chapter of my life was off to a great start. However, as the semester marched on, things took a nasty turn, and my room share became more akin to a torture chamber. Chris's night terrors had begun subtly, innocent enough to dismiss. She simply struck me as a restless sleeper, occasionally murmuring in her sleep. But soon those groggy murmurs shifted into something else altogether. The noises no longer sounded normal. They were becoming unreal and frightening, like a radio tuned to a distorted station. I would lie awake, listening to these awful noises, not feeling comfortable enough to sleep. The room felt charged, like at any moment some dreadful thing could happen. As the nights rolled on, the shifts became more pronounced, and Chris started sleepwalking. It was eerie, watching her navigate our dimly lit room with vacant eyes. I tried to snap her out of it by waving my hands in front of her face, but it didn't seem to work. Eventually she'd come out of it on her own. I attempted to talk to her about what just happened, but she simply brushed it off. I told myself that her blasé attitude was likely an attempt to mask some sort of embarrassment. She was probably just like me, slightly stressed to be living away from home for the first time. I mentioned Chris's strange behaviour to a few friends, hoping they'd reassure me, but their concerned looks mirrored my own anxiety. They suggested counselling or sleep therapy, and after looking into it, I told Chris about a clinic in the area. I remember how her eyes flickered dangerously as I once again broached the subject. She laughed suddenly. It was almost a bark, like what I just suggested was totally audacious. She tells me that she's been sleepwalking since childhood and that I needed to get over it. But deep down, I knew it was something else, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Maybe Chris took a disliking to me for sticking my nose into her business. I don't know, but from this moment onwards, things went from bad to terrifying. Next, the whispers started. They were soft and chilling. I'd wake up to hear her talking in hushed tones to no one. At first I convinced myself it was gibberish, the ramblings of an agitated mind, but one night I swear I heard my name in those whispers. I roll over to face her, and she is standing by my bed, her eyes fixed on me but not really seeing me. Her mouth was agape, her jaw rocking back and forth. I managed to stammer her name, but she gave no response, just that empty gaze. I shivered, feeling a dread I can't explain. I managed to guide her back to her bed, her movements mechanical like she was operating on autopilot. Another night I woke up to a shuffling sound. Chris was crawling around on the floor like a predator stalking its prey. I froze, watching in horrified fascination as she darted under my bed. I can hear her scuffling about and making throaty, snarling sounds. I don't dare move, not wanting to provoke her strange state. The air felt heavy, suffocating. Then I hear scratching on the underside of my mattress. I don't know what to do. I continue to just lie there as still as I can. After what seems like an eternity, she slithers out from under my bed. I pretend that I'm asleep, but my eyes are ever so slightly open. She is crouched at the foot of my bed, staring at me. She lifts up one corner of my comforter and slips her hands under the covers. The sheets rustle as her fingers creep towards me and rest upon my ankle. Her nails start pressing into my skin. I fight the urge to scream. Finally, she removes her hands and climbs back into bed. She rolls over onto her side and her breathing becomes long and steady. At this point, I think that I must have experienced the worst of it, but wow, was I wrong. The nights grow colder as Christmas break approached, and Chris's episodes continue in their usual manner. The dread that night brings is becoming all too familiar. The days blur together, a haze of anxiety and confusion. I no longer feel any concern for Chris. We are way beyond that. I just need to protect myself from whatever is happening. Sleep is elusive, fear keeping me from getting a proper night's rest. The room feels like a prison. I have nowhere else I can go. No choice but to keep returning to this twilight nightmare. I've always enjoyed the holidays, and to rid myself of some of the gloom, I decided to put up some decorations. I hang up some lights and decorate a small Christmas tree. Having the room sparkle with festive spirits cheers me up and brings me some much-needed comfort. About a week later, I wake up to the noise of the tree being thrown across the room. I look over to the windowsill to see Chris standing there with her arms splayed out, her body cloaked in a shimmering web of tinsel. Her knees jut out at unnatural angles, and her elongated fingers are locked into talons. A tangle of fairy lights dangle from one hand to the other. They wash her snarling face with a sickly glow. Her lips are peeled back, and tightly clenched between her teeth is a delicate glass ornament, a glistening star. Panic seizes me and I jump out of bed. "Chris, what are you doing?" I ask, my voice tight. But she doesn't answer. Her eyes are intense, yet distant. I approach her cautiously, my heart racing. I urge her to come down from the windowsill, trying to keep my voice steady. But then, as if a switch has been flipped, she bites down on the star and it shatters with a resounding snap. Glittery fragments shower down as her mouth twists open and an unearthly scream erupts from within her. I stumble back, horror clawing at my chest. I watch in disbelief as her body convulses with wretched intensity, her features contorting in a way that defies all understanding of the human form. It's a chilling spectacle, as though some otherworldly force has taken hold. She's waking up the entire building. I can hear raised voices in the hallway outside our dorm. Someone starts banging on the door. I turn to open it and Chris jumps on my back, knocking me to the floor. She pins me down and leers over me. Her hair drapes over my face with a look of pure mania in her eyes. I try with all my might to push her off me, but it's no good. She's too strong. I can hear the RA's voice on the other side of the door. I scream out to her for help and hear keys jangling in the lock. I'm in disbelief as Chris climbs off me and runs to her bed. She lies down as the door swings open. The RA and a bunch of students are standing there staring at me as I scramble around in a tangled mess on the floor, a mix of fear and bewilderment coursing through my veins. The RA sits me on my bed and gets me some water. She asks me if I'm okay, and I tell her how Chris attacked me. She looks at Chris, who shakes her head. She tells the RA that I was having some sort of nightmare and throwing myself around the room. I'm stunned by what is happening. I start to protest, but realise how crazy I look. I still have tinsel wrapped around my neck. I shoot Chris a stern look, too perplexed to respond. The next morning I challenge her about the previous night's events, and she insists that it is me who lost my mind. She says that she woke up to me writhing on the floor, wrapped up in a bunch of Christmas decorations. I feel like I'm going insane, and I start to raise my voice, but she simply laughs off my concerns, insisting that I'm overreacting. She suggests that maybe I need some therapy. I can't take it any longer. Night terrors are one thing, but events have taken a cruel twist that is no longer acceptable. The distinction between reality and nightmare has melted away, leaving me in a perpetual state of dread. I muster the courage to request a room change, explaining to the administration that the atmosphere in our room is just too oppressive. They comply, and I move to student accommodation on the other side of campus. I don't see Chris again, thank God, but at Christmas time I often think of her and cringe. I'll never be totally sure whether her night terrors were legitimate or if she was playing wicked mind games with me. What I do know is that I'll never look at a Christmas tree in the same way, ever again.